Now all of a sudden things change for the Jets as well. And I know the Giants going to have their hands full come Thursday night in San Francisco, especially with all the injuries that they're dealing with now on their offensive line and their backfield. Of course, with Saquon, they're saying it's a low ankle sprain. I would think 4 games. I would think they're going to be really careful. I know they've been reporting 2 to 3 games. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4 games, this and 3 more. You're looking at about 3.5 weeks. So I would say probably missing the next 4 games. I just want them to get out of this game unscathed. And the guy that really needs to be unscathed is the quarterback. And then I was thinking about the Jets quarterback situation yesterday because it's what we all think about and what we all talk about. And the Jets have not added another quarterback. Doesn't look like they're going to add one at least this week. I would imagine that they're thinking over there that, they want to give Zach an opportunity to see whether or not he can do this. And I know that for 6 months you've been saying there's no way they can win with him. I don't know. Shannon Sharp says something yesterday, but you've been saying it for 6 months. And all of a sudden that gets headlines, but you've been saying the same damn thing. And I would just caution the Jets in this regard. It's not so much whether or not he can play or he can't play. I think everybody's made up their mind whether they want to support him or they want him out of here. But the fact of the matter is he does have a propensity for injury for the way that he plays. And he took a couple brutal shots against the Cowboys and got up from those shots. That doesn't mean he's going to get up all the time. So this is a rough game, as evidenced by last night. And everybody, responds, "Oh my God, injuries!" This, that. It's the NFL. They happen every week. It's just so we all saw it last night because it was on national television, and somebody has to explain to me why Disney is playing one game on ESPN and the other game on ABC, and nobody's watching a game on ESPN. There's no reason to have a doubleheader on your network, I don't believe.
At the same time.
It should be one game at 8:05. That's the game time it should be. You get the West Coast offense, you get the West Coast audience, you get the East Coast audience, and it's one game. That's it. And if you want to put it on both entities, put it on both entities.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because I know we talked about it a little bit when it first came out, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And then last night, just seeing it in action, just so strange. I mean, is it a sales thing? Is this, because I can't think of anything else where the network goes, listen, we're going to have 2 NFL games exclusively on our networks, and we can sell you both ABC and ESPN, and you're going to get this much audience exposed. Because to me, especially when one matchup is way more interesting to me than the other, I mean, I was able to just forget about the Saints and the Panthers for a little bit, but if both games were big primetime matchups, I would be pissed off again.
I was trying to watch both, of course, because Frank and Carolina and Bryce Young, and I'm trying to go back and forth. And
well, I know a lot of people have a couple TVs or tablet and TV, but it's still annoying when it's supposed to be a primetime game and you're used to having one game on.
And quite frankly, the Saints and the Panthers, that's a 1 o'clock Sunday game.
Yeah.
That's a regional game. It's even though the games... If that game were standalone, people would have watched it because everybody loves the NFL. Mm-hmm. And we all would have seen Bryce Young and we all would have seen Derek Carr in his new uniform and the whole thing. But, the Steeler-Brown matchup is so compelling because, as you see, it's very physical. And I've been in the situations like Deshaun Watson found himself in last night, man. When that defense is rolling and they're doing what they were doing last night, I mean, it's impossible to figure out where they're all coming from. They were a mess. As soon as they lost Nick Chubb, the game was over for them. Even though the game was tight, it was essentially they lost their best offensive threat. And Deshaun is just not right. He's not the player that he was in Houston. And maybe it'll take him a couple more games to get into the flow of things, but he was off last night, fumbling the ball, interceptions. 2 defensive touchdowns for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can't really do anything offensively. They do one long play like the Jets.
Yep.
They can't run the ball like they're used to running the ball. And Kenny Pickett's struggling right now.
Yeah, and that whole preseason, Kenny Pickett's going to take a step forward that we all believe because he looked great in the preseason. It's sort of been a farce through 2 weeks for the Steelers, but they were able to get that win, an important one in the division after getting their asses kicked Week 1 at home in front of their home fans by the San Francisco 49ers. So that was a big win for them. The place was going nuts after Highsmith returns that interception on the first play of the game. And I know that the Cleveland Browns were able to settle in, get down the field, run Chubb there. But then after he went out, I know it went down to the end, but after he went out, that just took the wind out of their sails. And it sucks. But we say this every year before the year starts. We sit here and most teams are healthy coming out of the preseason now because they don't play in the preseason. This is why the first couple of weeks are so sloppy, and we see so many injuries the first couple of weeks of the season because nobody plays in the preseason. So every year we have this conversation. Either you bring it up or I bring it up, where we say, think about how many guys from now until the end of the season are going to go down with season-ending injuries. Are going to change the whole season. We're not even thinking about right now.
Right, and the amazing thing is now, it's social media, so everybody has an opportunity to amplify what they feel. And I'm just thinking to myself, back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, there was none of that stuff. 50s, going back to there was none of that stuff. And guys were getting hurt, and it was probably worse, given the fields that we were playing on back then. But, last night that's a grass field, and another guy gets hurt. There were some people who had thought that, Minkah Fitzpatrick, that was a dirty hit. That was not a dirty hit. I looked at it 1,000 different times, different angles. I hate to see what happened to Nick Chubb, but if Minkah Fitzpatrick does not go in there and throw his head in there, Steeler fans, the coaching staff, they're going to be calling him out.
No, of course.
He has no chance. He has no choice but to get involved and keep Nick Chubb out of the end zone. It's football. It's an ugly, nasty, physical, brutal game that we all choose to play.
And we all love when it is played that way. We hate seeing people get hurt, but you don't want to see guys olaying tackles or not giving their best or being Chase Claypool trying to block in week one where he doesn't even try for the Chicago Bears. Those are the guys that get crushed. And to me, if you're watching this game and you know anything about the NFL and the rivalry that is the Browns and the Steelers and how they hate each other and they always will, Nick Chubb is bowling people over. He's getting chunks of yardage. He is their best offensive player, hands down, and they're down by the goal line. So Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is a all-pro player, who's playing his ass off in his game after that defense got embarrassed last week and that team got embarrassed, went in and gave it his all on a tackle. And it sucks what happened, but it's not his fault. It was not a dirty hit. There was no intent to injure. I'm sure Minkah Fitzpatrick feels terrible about it. But anybody that thinks that he tried to do that or that was some sort of dirty hit because the Browns and the Steelers don't like one another, Minkah Fitzpatrick has a ton of respect for Nick Chubb, and he wasn't trying to end his season.
Right. And by the way, Minkah Fitzpatrick got hurt on that play, stayed in the game, and then got hurt later on in the game.
Yeah.
And came out of the game. So I don't know what to tell you. It's just you got to be all in. You don't like the cheap shots. You don't want to see fights and pushing and guys swinging at each other and ripping each other's helmets off in between plays. You don't want to see that. What you want to see is intense, hard-nosed, grown man football. That's the way it is. And believe me, I would be the first to call out what I thought would be a dirty shot. I know he's involved with a tackler. I think it was Highsmith, I believe.
It's so quick though,
and it happens so quick. It's down on the goal line, and you got to get involved. And I work with Coach Cowher, and Coach Cowher always talks about this. And this is always the substance of who he was as a coach. I think who he was as a player. He always talks about imposing your will on the opposing team.
Captain Coward.
Right. And the Steelers have a history, and they have a very prideful history, and they want to play always to the edge. That's why Joey Porter is that way. The guys that I played against were that way. Levon Kirkland, all these guys that were there always would play to the edge. They would play right to that whistle, and you knew it going into the game. That's why in Cincinnati it would always be Steeler week. So what did that mean? Make sure your chin straps are buttoned, your head's on a swivel, and you're playing to the whistle. You're playing to the echo of the whistle.
Yeah.
Because it's nonstop. And when they're playing like they were playing last night, because of what happened last week and because who their coach is, it was a very unpleasant week for the Steelers.
Oh, my goodness. Of course.
That coach, Tomlin, is talking about history and talking about this and talking about the pride of the Steelers, the black and the gold, the fans, the Heinz Field. We have to protect it. That it's a fever pitch and the intensity is really high. So I know why Deshaun Watson struggled last night. I've been in that situation, and it's not pleasant at all. And that was Steeler football in a nutshell right there. Other than the fact that they can't run the ball, they're really having a hard time running the ball. That's the one aspect of the Steelers that that they want to get to that they haven't gotten to. But the defense was flying around all over the place last night. They gave up 198 yards on the ground.
Yeah, well, that's another reason why Minkah Fitzpatrick was trying to do whatever he could to get Nick Chubb to the ground. I mean, he was dominating that game. He was ready to completely take it over. And, yeah, he's a superstar, and it sucks. And, you think about how that changes a season, but still, I'd rather deal with the loss of a running back than deal with the loss of a quarterback any day of the week, as great as Nick Chubb is. And, of course, they'll be able to recover a lot easier than the Jets are able to recover. I mean, the Jets are grasping at straws to try to figure out what the hell is going to happen at the quarterback position. They could say all they want about we're rolling with Zach and we believe in Zach. We'll see what happens this week. And he gets asked directly, Rob Saleh, yesterday by Brian Costello, are you going to add a quarterback to the quarterback room? And he goes, well, it's a question for Joe, but, I don't think so. He's sort of hemming and hawing a little bit. And they're going to have to, as you mentioned, not only for someone to come in and start, like, let's not even think about that, but having a third quarterback on the roster. If Zach Wilson does go down, now you got Tim Boyle and then Randall Cobb as your emergency quarterback when you're trying to save your season. I mean, what are we doing? I don't know. And every time my head is on a swivel now thinking about who the Jets could bring in. So last night, I see Andy Dalton chilling on the sidelines. I'm like, what about him? I mean, why not? I mean, I know that they've got a young quarterback and they don't want to give up on a season, but we know that they're rebuilding this year, and it is a winnable division. I understand, but Frank Reich is a reasonable guy, and if the Jets called and said, hey, is Andy Dalton available and Andy could have a chance to play here, wouldn't you let him go? Like, if you really love something, set it free?
Well, I understand that, but I also understand that it would have to be, the compensation would have to be like, all right, we'll take a third-round draft pick or whatever.
Third-rounder for Andy Dalton? No way.
Well, that's the point. You're trying to save your season, man. So the leverage is on the other side. It's not on your side.
Yeah, I guess so.
And everybody in the league knows that. And believe me, everybody feels terrible for Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
But nobody feels sorry for the Browns.
No.
Everybody feels terrible for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Nobody feels sorry. The other teams I'm talking about, not their fan base.
Yeah.
But the other teams don't care about, they're probably happy the Jets are dealing with this.
Yeah, like deal with it. Fine. Happens to everybody.
Good luck. It happens to everybody. Somewhere along the line, it's going to happen. And, this is two major running backs that are out now, J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb, both out of the AFC North. Both with significant knee injuries. Both happen on grass, by the way.
Yeah.
So this whole argument again, this is going to drive me crazy.
Well, the only leg anybody has to stand on with that if it's a non-contact injury. That's the only time. If you see a guy just running down the field like Sterling Shepard was and all of a sudden, whap, then you can make a case for it. But other than that, to me, I think it's a silly thing to talk about.
But what I'm saying is that, like, let's say Nick Chubb was playing at MetLife and this hit happened and his foot stuck in the
people would be talking about it.
Screaming about it. Like, what happened to Aaron Rodgers? When you have a 260-pound linebacker twisting you into the ground and you're holding on to the ball and you're fighting it, injuries are going to happen. That's the way the game is played.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing to me. Like, guys, I'm trying to think of great pass rushers. The Michael Strahans, the Reggie Whites, all these guys that we played against. Man, if they got near you, I mean, they were lifting you up and they were slamming you down and throwing their entire weight on you. And that isn't because they like you. They want to get you out of the game.
Sure.
Now, they may not admit it. They may not talk about, I'm not out there to really hurt anybody. Well, if you're 275 pounds and you're lifting a guy up and you're slamming him into the ground and
Boomer's not moving. I don't know if he has been knocked unconscious, but he is not moving at all.
And you throw a guy onto the ground and you throw your entire weight on him, what are you trying to do?
Oh, Boomer dead. Is he dead? Oh, my God, he killed Boomer.
Yep, we understand. And it happens still to this day, even though the rules are trying to protect the quarterbacks as much as possible. But it still happens to this day. You get a shot, you get a shot.
And, the amazing thing, too, is he was hit. He was engaged in a tackle. But Micah Fitzpatrick's got to make a decision quick. And he's got to go low on Nick Chubb just simply because if he doesn't, he's going to get steamrolled.
Yep.
That's the other thing you got to remember. And I would just say that in a situation like this, it's eye-opening and it's I'm glad ESPN didn't show it, but then again, you could find it on social media immediately, and you could find 5 different angles of it.
Right.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.